Oscar Wilde said, "I can resist everything except temptation."
Are you ready to make the most of the only life you have? To make smart money choices focused on achieving what you care about most? Here to help you balance living well today without sacrificing your tomorrow is the Retirement Answer Man, Roger Whitney.
Oh, I hear you, Oscar. I hear you, man. Especially around the holiday season. So I, Roger Whitney, struggle with temptation, especially when it comes to technology gadgets. I'm a gadget nut when it comes to technology. So let me give you an example. Over the last month or so, I've been really jonesing for these Bose Quiet Comfort headphones. So these things are noise canceling. They got good quality sound. I travel a lot and I work remotely a lot in coffee shops. I'm like, man, I could wear these, put on the noise cancellation, turn on some classical music, and really focus on my work, regardless of where I'm at. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to put these on my Christmas list or my birthday list, because my birthday is in January, because my wife always gets mad that I don't have anything for my list. Well, I'm walking through the airport about 7:30 a.m. in Houston. I had to fly down for the day for a Texas Society CPA presentation. I had a few minutes, and there's a little technology store. So I walk in, and they got the headphones, so I'm checking them out, making sure I like them. Yep. Long story short, I bought them right there. Same price as I would get anywhere. Walked out with the headphones. I could not resist, because I'm like, I got to go work right after this. It'd be great to have them. Got to the hotel, put them on, worked before my presentation, and there you go. I struggle with temptation, especially with technology around the holiday season. Now, these are pretty expensive. They're like $350. It's not going to break the bank. But the accumulation of these types of decisions, these temptations, can literally cost me or others, you, your life, if you don't learn to resist them. So we're going to talk a little bit about temptation in the context of retirement. We're going to answer some listener questions, and then we're going to get to a really big announcement that I'm pretty excited to share with you. But before we do all that, let's get to the disclaimer. Hey, this is real simple. Don't take advice from Roger Whitney on the show. This is helpful hints in education. I only give advice to clients that I actually work with because I know something about them and I can speak into their life. So before you make any decisions, talk to your legal advisor, your tax advisor, or your financial advisor, because that's just common sense. There's more legalese after the show my attorney says you want to listen to, so go do that. But now let's get on with the show. In the news today is the Hot Topic segment, where we typically share something that's in the news, right? And give you some perspective, but I'm going to hijack this because I have a big announcement that I think you'll be excited about. Starting February 1st, 2017, we will be airing the first episode of the third annual, that makes sense, Retirement Plan Live. So excited to do this. Now, if you're a new listener, let me explain to you what Retirement Plan Live is. Over the last couple of years, each year we take a listener, someone like you, and I work with them for no cost to build a retirement roadmap, a retirement plan, and we record each episode and air them so we can all listen in like a fly on the wall to that person dreaming up their ideal retirement, organizing their financial resources, looking at the risks in their life and how to manage them. And then at the end of you listening to those conversations, we have a live webinar with the subject of Retirement Plan Live, where we walk through their retirement roadmap. And if then they find out whether they can retire or not. If they can't, we negotiate a workable solution that is focused on what they care about right then. So that is what Retirement Plan Live is. And we're going to do the 2017 edition starting the 1st of February in 2017. Now, to do this, we need a subject. We need one of you to step up to walk through this process and receive a free roadmap along with 6 months access to me to help you implement that on your own. I'll be your resource to help answer your questions and guide you through those 6 months. So first, if you think you might want to be a candidate for this retirement plan live, first let me tell you what you have to give. The first thing you have to give is some of your time for you and I to walk through this journey together. That will take less than a month. You have to give me allowing to record each of those episodes so I can use them on the show. This will be pre-recorded content, so if we say something we shouldn't say, don't worry about that. We can edit it. We're going to change your name. We'll change some of the facts to try to protect your identity, but you have to give up some of the transparency of what your dreams are for your life and some of your financials. So you're going to have to give all this, and you're going to have to be willing to be on the live webinar with me to reveal what that journey is. So you got to be willing to do it. Now, we've never had trouble getting candidates, and I work hard to protect your identity, but I can't guarantee it. So there's a little bit of transparency involved. So be aware of that. Now, what do you get? You get the roadmap, the actual plan, and then you get 6 months access to me to help answer your questions and coach you through implementing that plan on your own. Now, what kind of candidates do we want? Who are we asking to step up to be the subject for this retirement plan live? Here's what I'm looking for. 1, I prefer that you are a man or a woman or a couple. Okay, that should be pretty easy. You got to be a person. 2, I would prefer that you are within 5 years of retirement, someone it's fairly eminent. You got to get this figured out. Number 3 is I prefer that you have no pension. Now, we've had candidates with very healthy pensions, and that's wonderful, but it makes the planning a lot easier, and most people don't have pensions nowadays, so no pension. Next, I would prefer that you had assets less than $2 million. Now, $2 million is still a lot of money, but I want to have a candidate that's a little bit more financially normal. So less than $2 million in assets. And then lastly, someone that is not a super planner. For those of you that listened in to the last 2 editions, both candidates, Carl in particular, they were super planners, man. They had spreadsheets all over the place. This was their hobby. This is one thing that they really enjoyed. I'm looking for someone, again, more normal they're too busy to do all that stuff. So somebody that we can all relate to more. So if you qualify in those parameters and you want to put your name in the hat, here is how you do it. Email Roger, that's me, email me at roger@wwkllc.com. In the email, put in the subject line RPL 2017. So RPL 2017. And then in the body of the email, just tell me a little bit about yourself. I don't need everything. Just tell me a little bit about yourself. And everybody that puts their name in the hat, my rock star teammate, Nicole, will reach out and we'll set up a quick time to talk so I can find the best candidate to bring the best value to the most people. So if you're interested, email roger@wwkllc. In the subject line, put RPL 2017. And we'll find that candidate, and then we'll have this great retirement plan live for 2017.
Huh? What does that mean?
In the What Does That Mean segment today, I want to define and discuss the term hyperbolic discounting. Hyperbolic discounting. Now, that's a very fancy term. What it means is it refers to the tendency for people to increasingly choose a smaller, sooner reward over a larger, later reward as the delay occurs sooner rather than later in time. So what does that mean? That means Roger prefers, this is going to sound horrible. Roger prefers spending the money on the smaller reward of buying those Bose Quiet Comfort 35 headphones today over the much larger potential reward of putting that money into his retirement plan and growing it over the next 30 or 40 years. I know what that money could grow to if I were to invest it, but I prefer to have that bird in the hand than to worry about 2 in the bush. Regardless of logic, present bias, meaning stuff that can happen right now, is going to be much more important than anything off into the future. even if logic would tell you that you should delay to get that future potentially bigger benefit. So this is what hyperbolic discounting is. It's something that's hardwired into us that doesn't follow logic. It doesn't follow reasoning. It's like, okay, if I have $50 today, but I know I could have $1,000 in 10 years, most people are going to take the $50. Now, not everybody, but most people will. There'll be a strong urge, a strong desire just to take the money and run, to have that hand in the bush. This is part of the big battle that you and I fight every day when we're trying to create a great life. We want the today part of our teeter-totter, you heard me talk about teeter-totters, to be as good as it can today. Even though intellectually, logically, we know we want the other side of that teeter-totter to be in balance and have a great tomorrow. So, know it or not, for me, when I was walking through that airport and I buy my Bose Comfort headphones, I valued spending the $350 right then to satisfy that reward over a much bigger reward of getting them for free potentially in 3 weeks or a month and a half. Wow. I feel like an idiot now. But those are the kind of trade-offs that we calculate through our head, and that impulse, that temptation just to get it. Get it now so you can enjoy it because we want to live as well as we can today. That's okay in moderation. But if we do that too much, if those temptations are things that are going to blow up your life, those boats, those cars, those timeshares, safety now rather than taking risk and investment because we value having that dollar today, burying it in the ground. We take that to too far of an extreme, we literally can miss out on an amazing life later in life. So this is something that we need to deal with, and it's the topic that comes up over and over. And this is one of the central issues that I work with clients on, is helping them understand the trade-offs and making sure that they don't go too far in taking the bird in the hand, but also that they don't go too far in deferring everything and missing the only life they have. So that's what hyperbolic discounting is. Now let's get on with the show and answer some listener questions. Hey, welcome to the Practical Planning segment where we're going to answer some listener questions today. The first question is really an issue I'm dealing with in my practice right now. So let me lay out the facts of it for you. I have a client who has a permanent insurance policy with a lot of cash value built up into it. It's the type that has investments attached to it. He's had this for a very long period of time, longer than he and I have been working together. And he has a fairly substantial net worth. So he's a high net worth individual. And I work directly with the CPA and his business and his estate planning attorney and his insurance advisor. And he recently got a new insurance expert to work with. And he's having that gentleman review the insurance policies that he has in place. This one in particular. So the insurance expert looks at the policy, gets an in-force illustration, which is an illustration you can ask for from the insurance company that says, okay, based on the cash value and the plan premium, how is this policy doing? How long can it last? So we had him analyze it based on paying the plan premium, and we had him analyze it based on not paying any more premiums, just letting the cash value pay for the insurance cost of the contract. I know this sounds like it's getting complicated, but it's not. It's not really. So the expert puts together his analysis with some proposal of alternate solutions that he gives to the client. And the client gives it to me because I'm the quarterback. I'm like the CFO. I'm the disinterested party that helps decide what we need to do for his total financial life, to ask me to review it and tell him what he should do or give him my opinion. So my first question to the client was, what is the purpose for the insurance? Why do we even want this insurance? What are we trying to accomplish here? And he said, well, I already have insurance for estate planning purposes. This is really to make sure my wife is okay if I were to pass away prematurely. You know, he's in his 50s. So I'm like, okay. I have him give me all of his updated financial statements. I look at the insurance, and first we determine, okay, what, if any, estate need do we have for this insurance policy? Does he have an estate tax issue? Even though he's close to the estate tax exemption limit, we're okay. There's no real estate planning need, and he has some other insurance put in place for that. Then we look at his financial assets and analyze, okay, if he were to die today, what type of lifestyle could his family, his wife, lead without any insurance? Can his financial assets support what his family wants to accomplish if he were to pass today? And the answer was easily. It could easily support what their family wants to accomplish today. So outside of just simply leveraging paying for insurance, there wasn't a lot of need for insurance. So I open up the presentation from the insurance expert, and they analyze the policy, and the policy, if no premiums are paid, would probably last until the client was about 78 or 9. And then he proposed a couple different insurance policies that he felt were much more appropriate and that could last a lot longer. And for various reasons, I can't get into a lot of the details here. And they were reasonable in the recommendation. But my ultimate advice to the client is going to be that we really just don't need this insurance policy. We don't need it. Here are the trade-offs of getting rid of it, because even if you do a return on investment calculation for the insurance you have in place, or we go with one of the options that the insurance expert has presented, you actually calculate the return on investment to normal expectancy, life expectancy. The return on investment really isn't that great. You're not getting that much leverage using the insurance rather than just taking all the cash value and using that for general investment purposes. So my recommendation probably is going to be not to keep the insurance policy at all. So what's the bigger point here for me? The bigger point I drew out of this was that it makes sense if you have insurance or if you have investments and you're not sure about them, to go to an insurance expert or an investment expert and have them give you a second opinion on what you have. You could really apply this in all areas of your life, even a car mechanic, right? It makes sense to go to them to get their second opinion. When you do, even if you find a highly competent, very ethical, very stand-up type of person, they are going to approach it from the universe that they think in. So if an insurance guy is evaluating insurance, he is always going to have another insurance solution available because that's what they do. They just deal with insurance all day long. That is their hammer. And when someone comes to them with an insurance problem, it may not be the best person to go to get it totally reviewed is another insurance guy, because they're going to either give you another insurance policy option because that's what they do. And that's not a nefarious sort of thing. That's just the logic of it. When the bigger question is, what is the purpose for the insurance in the first place? And what's the best policy to achieve what my overall goals are? This is one reason when I'm doing a retirement roadmap, I really don't want to know much about how somebody is invested until the end. Because when you get into the particulars of the investment assets on the front end, it becomes a game of inches. It becomes, how do I tweak this? How do I make that better? Rather than, let's just dream up what should be from an investment standpoint, then look at what you have and start to reconcile how close we can get. Because having that clean page gets to the why of whatever service or issue you have. Why do you need to deal with this in the first place? And what is the best solution absent what is, so you didn't get caught in the game of inches? Because when you look at what is, now it just becomes a game of tweaking. So hopefully that gives you some perspective, but it was some lessons that I pulled out of walking this journey with a client. Now, our first question is related to this. Lydia, who is a new listener, she said, do you have a podcast on annuities that I could listen to? I haven't found one, and I'm dealing with an advisor who wants to sell us a long-term care policy, And then I was asking him a lot of questions based on an issue that you had. Now he's mentioning a single premium life policy of some sort, and then I guess annuities as well. So she asked me if I had some information on that. Now, listen to this. Lydia and I are going to have a quick conversation about this privately, but just through what he's asking, he is starting to direct the conversation for the client to find out, or the potential client in this case, for Lydia, to find out more about the solutions that he's leading her towards. And just by the nature of her question, she's asking me for more information on those things. So my initial thought for Lydia was, I'll read it verbatim. I suggest running from an advisor that leads with solutions too early, especially insurance solutions, mainly because they're expensive and they're hard to unwind if you make a wrong decision. An advisor should help you try to frame what you're trying to accomplish, understand your complete financial picture before focusing on solutions. Because if you don't get to the why first, if you don't get to what it is you're trying to accomplish and what your situation is, then they're just a hammer and you happen to be the nail that walked up to put in that insurance solution in. So don't even go down trying to analyze their recommendations. If they don't have that spirit and that process in place, they're definitely not the right person, in my opinion. And I sent her the list of interview questions I say to use when you're interviewing an advisor. So I just thought that was related somewhat to what I was dealing with. So Lydia and I are going to talk, but hopefully that gave you some perspective as well. Our last question comes from Matt. Now, Matt says he and his wife are both 36, so they're younger. What are you listening to the Retirement Answer Man show for, you youngins? Anyway, they have $300,000 in retirement accounts. Most of it is pre-tax because his wife is a very high earner. She is currently contributing $1,100 a month to her Roth 401k, which has a match, which would actually go into the pre-tax bucket. The match would. And then another $1,100 a month into a 457B plan. So this is a non-qualified type of plan. And then Matt contributes about $750 a month into a 457 plan as well. And his question is, what should they do with any additional excess money that they have each month? Now, he says they have a lot of school debt that is at 4.25% interest, and then a mortgage, which is at 3 5/8. But they're paying about 1.5 times the monthly payment to the medical bills. They said some options that they're considering is starting a traditional IRA and converting it, or making regular $250 contributions to some, say, high dividend stocks or an index fund of some type. So he just wants to know, what should they do with this excess money? So Matt, here are some ideas to this question of what should we do with some extra money, looking at the totality of your situation. Obviously, this isn't advice because I don't know you, but first I would definitely work at maximizing your Roth 401k. If she's contributing $1,100 a month, she could actually up that to $1,500 a month and hit the limit for 2017 of $18,000 a month. For you, you could probably do the same. And rather than contribute to a 457, which is a non-qualified deferred comp type program, which is going to grow tax deferred, if you need the tax break, I understand that. But if you can start contributing to the Roth 401k, that might be a great idea as well. Now, if you have money over and above making these contributions, you go through the exact same checklist I always talk about is, one, make sure you have your emergency fund funded, that airbag of life. Now, how much you should have in that really is going to be dependent upon a couple things. It's going to be dependent upon how steady your cash flow is. If you have real lumpy cash flow because your commission or your income is mainly big bonuses, you might want to dial that emergency fund up a little bit. The other is, how stable is your job? How comfortable are you with your job in terms of feeling like you need to have a big airbag to protect you if someone gets laid off? Absent that, 3 to 6 months is a good range depending on your comfort level. Once you have your emergency fund funded from that excess cash flow, then make sure you have enough extra money set aside for any big ticket items that you're going to be spending on in the next year. Good example, I'm thinking about this stuff the other day on my own personal balance sheet. I got tuition due in January for my kids, and then I'm going to have tuition due in, August for my kids, and then we're going to have a vacation. I want to make sure that money is built up above my emergency fund for those things to occur so I don't have to scramble around or deplete my emergency fund. After you do those two things, and you're already investing, so I'm not going to tell you not to do that. Personally, I would kill off those school loans. You're paying $425. I know that seems really reasonable. I personally like to pay off bad debt, and I think of school loans as bad debt. So hopefully that gives you a framework. But if you grab the Building Your Net Worth worksheet, there should be a hierarchy in there of telling you how to think about it when you have excess cash on your balance sheet. Now let's go to the Smart Sprint.
On your marks, get set.
Hey, welcome to the Smart Sprint segment where I give you a challenge. I throw down the gauntlet to take a step in the next 7 days towards creating a better life in retirement. So my challenge to you here at the year end is go to your retirement account, your 401k, whatever retirement account you have. Review your asset allocation, make sure it's in line with your risk tolerance, and increase your contribution percentage by 1%. Just by 1%. Turn the dial up a little bit. You'll hardly ever notice it on your paycheck. But if, it's one of those things we should do. Rather than make a big gesture, just increase it by 1% in the next 7 days. Hey, welcome to the Happy Lab, where we noodle on how to create a happy life. Now, one thing I talk about a lot are little conversations, making sure we have little conversations about our life, about money, about debt, about a lot of different things, so we can make sure we're aligned with ourselves or with our spouse so we don't drift apart. And that can happen even if you're an individual by yourself, that you can say, this is what I value, but when you look at what you're doing, it doesn't align with that. You can have a little conversation with yourself. Part of those little conversations are having uncomfortable conversations, right? Take me with my Bose headphones. I had an uncomfortable conversation with myself. I'm like, Roger, you do this. You succumb to these little temptations, and it's not always in your best interest. And I talked to my wife about it a little bit, and it wasn't super comfortable because it feels like I'm a failure because I was going to put it on my Christmas list. It's easy to avoid those. Well, it's interesting. Studies show that for every one bad thing that happens or little conversation that you have happen that's uncomfortable, you have to have at least 5 good things to make it equal out in your head. So if you're going to have an uncomfortable conversation with someone else or a spouse or a child, make sure around those things you do 4 or 5 other things to reaffirm that you're on that journey together, because it's going to take that to equal it out to make sure that there isn't any other resentment that build up. So that might make you a little happier. I'm gonna do that today a little bit with my wife because I feel bad about succumbing to my temptation. Hey, before we end here, I wanted to let you know that starting January 1st, the retirement roadmap that I create for a flat fee, and I've been doing a lot of them this year, and it's been great to get to know some people that have taken advantage of that, is either going to go away starting January 1st. I'm not going to offer that flat fee engagement, or it's going to more than double in price. And it just has to do with priorities on my end from a business perspective and proper allocation of time. So if you had an interest in doing that flat fee engagement, you can go to rogerwhitney.com and click on Work with Roger, and you can see all the details there. Just so you know, starting January 1st, it's either going to go away. I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to offer it at all. And if I do, it's going to at least double in price. Not a sales technique. I just wanted to let you know. Next week, we are going to talk about the listener survey and do some listener review of books. Some reviews that you've sent me of books related to our reading list. So if you have any reviews, go to rogerwhitney.com and you write it in there, or even better, record your voice, giving me some perspectives on a book on the list so we can start to build that reading list for 2017. Until next week, this is Roger Whitney, the Retirement Answer Man.
We appreciate you joining us today for this episode of Retirement Answer Man. Be sure to visit rogerwhitney.com/answers to access the Retirement Answer Library with over 30 checklists to help you make the most of the only life you have. Remember, you have more power than you realize to create an amazing life starting today with Retirement Answer Man. The opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. All performance referenced is historical and no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Have a wonderful day.